Welcome back. General Musharraf's state of emergency has created consternation around the world. But for President Bush especially, who's relied on Pakistan's leader as a key ally in the war on terror, it's embarrassing.
We made it clear to the president that we would hope he wouldn't have declared the emergency powers he declared. Now that he's made that decision, our hope now is that he hurry back to elections.
And former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, back in Pakistan after an 8-year absence, seems poised to capitalize. Flying to Islamabad to meet other opposition leaders, she said she has no intention of meeting or talking to Musharraf, the man she'd been preparing to negotiate a power-sharing deal with.
If General Musharraf wants to defuse the turmoil, he should revive the constitution as soon as possible. He should assure people with a particular date when the elections will be held and that he is quitting the post of Army Chief.
Well, joining us again are our guests in Boston, Hussein Haqqani, Director of the Center for International Relations and a professor at Boston University. And he's also a former advisor to Pakistani Prime Ministers. And in London, Shehbaz Sharif, President of the PMLN party and brother of ousted Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. And we had contacted two Pakistani ministers earlier on who gave us a tacit agreement that they'd be on the program. Unfortunately, they declined at the last moment. Be that as it may, Mr. Haqqani, will there be a time when the United States says enough is enough in its support for this regime? Washington has said aid was under review, and Pakistan has received over $10 billion from the United States since 9/11. Will there be a point when enough is enough?
I think that the point has already come, Imran. What is happening is that the United States does not want to jeopardize its long-term relationship with Pakistan. So they are thinking of ways in which they can twist General Musharraf's arm without hurting Pakistan. I think that that is why President Bush's response has been the way it has been. I know that Mr. Sharif and many others have called for a stronger response, but I can tell you, being in the United States, that there is a strong response that is being prepared. Congress is preparing to take harsher measures. All the leading congressional committee chairpersons have already said that they are going to make laws that will make it very difficult for General Musharraf to get the benefit of American aid. We must understand that Musharraf has benefited from aid not only for the military, which he presides over, but also for creating the illusion of economic boom that he has in Pakistan. And it's going to suffer. We are already seeing the stock market tumble. We are seeing Pakistan's credit rating being hurt. All of those are things and measures that follow when the United States stops supporting a government. So Musharraf will have to pay a price for this. Question is, can America make Musharraf review his decision, revert to constitutional rule, revert to elections, and elections which, as Mr. Sharif rightly pointed out, allow all major political figures, including Benazir Bhutto and Mr. Nawaz Sharif, to participate in them. Can he do all of that and yet survive in power? It is possible that he may have to make a sacrifice of himself in the process, and he may not want to do that. So there will be a lot of pressure from the United States, and how it plays out, we will have to watch and see.
Shehbaz Sharif, are you angry at the response by the international community to the decision to impose a state of emergency?
No, I'm not angry, but I'm certainly disappointed because of the mute response from the international world, although since yesterday there have been mounting pressure both from Washington and London. Secretary Foreign Affairs David Miliband spoke to my brother Nawaz Sharif, I know in Jeddah, and also to Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto, and they held a press conference here and made it clear to Musharraf that he has to roll back. Now the question at issue is, Imran, if Musharraf rolls back, which is most unlikely, then one of the most important ingredients would be to restore the judiciary as of 2nd of November this year. Will he do that? I think if he does that, then Musharraf is gone. He will not be seen on the radar anymore. And now, without that, can we have free and fair elections? I think it's out of question. It will be a farce. You know, there will be a massive rigging, and judiciary will be totally mum and just follow Musharraf's dictates. And more importantly, I think as a result of that farce and fraud and deeply flawed elections, there will be a parliament which will be again a rubber stamp and will follow Musharraf's dictation. I think Pakistan stands to suffer, I think, irreparably if America and Britain don't appreciate the situation on the ground and cease supporting Musharraf. When I say cease supporting Musharraf, they have to support Pakistan and Pakistan's national interest. You cannot equate Musharraf with Pakistan. I think it's not proper, it's not fair. And one more thing I would like to add here, that the kind of brutalities committed yesterday to the lawyers, they were beaten, I think, very badly, they were injured and they were bruised, and a couple of them are very serious. And thousands of lawyers have been arrested, thousands of political workers have been arrested. Etazaz Ahsan, who is the leading light of this entire struggle against dictatorship, and also the chairman of Pakistan Bar Council, and Asma Jahangir, human rights chairperson in Pakistan. They have all been taken to various jails in Pakistan, and their kith and kin are not being allowed to meet them. Judges are under house arrest, and I think this is probably the finest hour in Pakistan's judicial history when majority of the judges all over Pakistan, High Court and Supreme Court, refused to take oath under Musharraf's PCO. I think it has never happened before, and I think they have shown sterling character. We must salute them. I think this will go, I think, one of the most important event in the history of Pakistan, our checkered history spanning over 60 years, when in the past we have seen judiciary, towing the line of dictators.
Mr. Sharif, sorry to interrupt you. Would you support Benazir Bhutto if she is chosen by the likes of the US and Britain as a more palatable alternative to Pervez Musharraf?
It is not a question of my choice or somebody else's choice. It is the question of choice of the people of Pakistan. If they choose her by majority vote, I think we will respect that mandate. If they choose Nawaz Sharif by majority vote, all of us should respect that mandate. That is the question at issue. It's not a question by choice or by a deal. Deal will not work. It has already backfired, as I said. Only and only, I think, a deal will work with the people of Pakistan. Let them say, let them speak under a free and fair dispensation, and that is the only answer. Otherwise, General Musharraf will keep on playing this Machiavellian game. His machinations has worked in the last 8 years. I hope will not work anymore. And for that, I think the West has to understand that this man is not sincere. You see, let us also make one thing very clear in its real perspective, that when political governments were in power, when democratic governments were serving the people of Pakistan, you had never seen this kind of extremism and terrorists operating all over Pakistan.
All right, let me interrupt you here because I want to bring in Hussein Haqqani. There's only a minute and a half left on the program. Mr. Haqqani, talking about the sincerity of President Musharraf, let me read you a quote from the man himself. He says, "I can assure you there will be harmony. Confidence will come back into the government, into law enforcement agencies, and Pakistan will start moving again on the same track as we were moving." Do you not believe him? Don't you think he deserves a chance?
I think he has no credibility whatsoever. He has lied on more than one occasion. But more important than that, General Musharraf treats the Pakistani nation as if it's a military parade where the sergeant commands and the entire parade turns left or right. Nations are not like that. Nations will have disagreements. Nations will have diversity of opinions. And if I may add, Ms. Benazir Bhutto has also made it very clear. She is not in the game to become Prime Minister by the anointment of somebody. She will become Prime Minister only when the people of Pakistan elect her. And I agree with Mr. Sharif that the people of Pakistan should have the choice, and it should be a free and inclusive choice.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Inside Story. We have run out of time. In Boston, Hussein Haqqani, Director of the Center for International Relations and a Professor at Boston University. And in London, Shahbaz Sharif, President of the PMLN and brother of Nawaz Sharif. And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We welcome your comments and suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. Bye-bye for now.